Welcome to the club!
Hello everyone! We continue discussing this masterpiece, which is called To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, and today we are discussing chapters from 11 till 14. So we ended part 1 and starting from chapter 12, it's part 2 in the book. Do you know why is the book divided into 2 parts?
Well, I think that the first part is just about childhood, about the city, the town where they live, and the second part is about the trial itself, maybe because of that.
Yes, but still, in the chapters 12, 13 and 14, still there is no trial yet.
Yes, but it's getting closer.
It's getting closer.
The atmosphere changes a lot.
Let's start with the summary. Will you please start?
Yes, of course. Tom Robinson's trial grows closer. Finch's neighbor, Mrs. Dubose, an old woman in a wheelchair, makes a rude remark, and Jim destroys some of her flowers. Atticus makes Jim apologize to Mrs. Dubose. Jim's punishment is to read to her after school for 1 month. Scout accompanies Jim, and after some time, Mrs. Dubose dies. Atticus tells the children that Mrs. Dubose was very sick. The second part starts. Jim is 12 now. He doesn't want to spend time with his little sister. Dill doesn't come to Macomb this summer, and Scout is sad. Calpurnia takes the children to church with her. Aunt Alexandra comes to live with them for a while.
Yes, I'll continue. So Aunt Alexandra comes to stay with the family and tries to teach Jem and Scout about the importance of their family's breeding. She disapproves of their relationship with Calpurnia and suggests that they should let her go. The tension between the children and their aunt ends up in a fist fight between Jem and Scout. Dill shows up unexpectedly. He has run away from home and is hiding in Scout's room. Atticus arranges for Dill to spend the night in their house. I don't know why, but it seems that with each part I write out more and more abstracts to discuss, and I don't know which to choose of them because all of them seem important to me.
I also have a lot of abstracts, but I think that I will read some of them, several, from the first chapter that we read for today, just because I like it so much. The first abstract I would like to read. They are certainly entitled to think that, and they are entitled to full respect for their opinions, said Atticus. But before I can live with other folks, I've got to live with myself. The one thing that doesn't abide by majority rule is a person's conscience. Of course, you live in society, but you can't always act according to their rules, the rules of society, because if you follow something that you do not agree with, that you do not feel like that, it won't be fair to yourself and it won't lead to anything good. So I think he is absolutely right.
I want to read an abstract and discuss it where it's kind of a little bit contradictory idea is expressed.
Okay.
But Cal, you know better, I said. It's not necessary to tell all you know. It's not ladylike, in the second place. Folks don't like to have somebody around knowing more than they do. It aggravates them. You're not gonna change any of them by talking right. They've got to want to learn themselves. And when they don't want to learn, there's nothing you can do but keep your mouth shut or talk their language.
Kind of special case because she's talking about absolutely different society. I mean that it's not like I think this way, you think this way, and I do not care what you think. It's another society, it's another folks, so as they say, they use this word. And of course they have their own customs, traditions, and their own way of thinking. Sometimes you should conform their rules, but I do not think that it's about making decisions. It's more about behavior, so not to make people angry and to care about what they think, but not let their thoughts influence your decisions.
Do you think it's easy? I mean, so there is a saying that yes, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, or you should run with the pack. It's the same idea. So it means that, for example, if you are a part of some community, you should kind of like at least respect their traditions and customs and so on and so forth. But still, for example, when we're talking about Kel, she is like living in two worlds. So she has her own community of colored people, and she lives or spends a lot of time in the house of white people. And of course, those two communities are completely different. And because she has been living for such a long time with the family of white people, she knows a lot about them. And of course, she knows a lot about her own community. And Scout was amazed, or even maybe shocked, by how Kel behaved when they were in church. Scout understands that Calpurnia can talk better with, I don't know, for example, grammatically correct, using better words, like of a higher level, so to speak. But still, she prefers to use another type of language that is used mainly in the community of colored people. So what do you think is more important? For example, if you are a part of community where the traditions and customs they have are not close to you, what should you do? Still follow those traditions even if you don't like them, and with time it's going to change you as a person? Or still you should do what you think is right?
Well, if we speak about modern world and nowadays, so of course you should respect, you should behave the way they expect you to behave in certain situations, but maybe not in all of them. But if you don't like it, you may just go away. So
sometimes
you have a lot of possibilities. Well, if it's about nowadays, but of course, yeah, sometimes it's not possible, and well, I think you should find kind of a compromise for yourself. So if you are ready, if you know that it will be maybe not the best option for you, but you can do it, so you may just follow their rules.
I just wanted to mention that sometimes, yes, there are such situations when you, for example, can't leave, and still you have to be a part of this group of people and follow some of their traditions. And as you know, I'm sure, they advise to do some things you want to acquire as a habit often, like constantly. So for example, if you want to have a good habit, for example, do some sports in the morning, you should start doing it for about like 14 or 21 days or something like that. And after this period of time, this habit is going to be less difficult for you. And the same, I think, with the things you don't like. If you keep doing things you don't like, with time, I think your mind is going to accept them, and you are not going to think of them as of the things you don't like. That's why I feel sorry for the people who can't change such situations and have to obey some rules and the traditions they don't like. And even about myself, I can say that, for example, unfortunately, I had to abandon some of my former friends because at some point in our lives they changed a lot, and we lost the points where we like connected. And at some point in my life I started to be quite castaway, because of course I have some new people around me, new interests, but still it takes quite a lot of time for me to grow closer to new people and to become friends.
I also had such situations, but well, I think that I was disappointed at first, of course, when we stopped communicating with each other. But when I look back at those years, I just realized that maybe it was right for that time, because I feel that every year I'm surrounded with the people I like more. So I can't say that those people were bad people, but I mean that now I have a little bit different life and my interests are again a little bit different from what I had years ago, and that's why I can't feel sorry for that, because it's just another moment of my life.
So, another period, and
yes, another new people, new friends, new hobbies. So it's natural.
It's natural, I agree, because if you continue to develop yourself, for example, yes, of course, at some point everything changes. So it's kind of like you are the same, but still everything changes.
Yes.
And the people around you change with those changes too.
Yes, I had one more. I certainly am. I do my best to love everybody. I'm hard put sometimes, baby. It's never an insult to be called what somebody thinks is a bad name. It just shows you how poor that person is. It doesn't hurt you. So don't let Mrs. Dubose get you down. She has enough troubles of her own.
I have exactly the same abstract here. I think we mentioned it a little bit.
I think that we talked about it a lot of times, like the idea that is in these words. But again, I just thought that these are beautiful words and that I agree, and I love the idea of living the life as Atticus Finch offers us to do.
The greatest idea here is that it's never an insult to be called what somebody thinks is a bad name.
Yeah.
So again, I remember, I don't know, what was it? It was some kind of a video on YouTube, I think, some motivational one maybe. And there was maybe a psychologist or some specialist who came up to a woman and said, "I don't like that your hair is green." And her hair wasn't green. She was like, "My hair isn't green." And he said, "Okay, so you're not insulted by my saying that I don't like your hair green." And she said, "Of course not." But then he asked her, "And then why are you insulted if someone calls you an idiot, for example?" Because if you're not an idiot, if you don't think of yourself this way, you shouldn't be insulted.
I just wanted to say, like you mentioned, psychologist.
Yes.
So yeah, it's I mean that we know a lot of things about psychology now because we have kind of psychological education. We read all self-help books, and we
it's
know
very popular
lot.
these days.
Yes, these days. But it was written years ago, and it's cool that even in those times people understood some things like that. And I think that maybe now it doesn't sound that revolutionary and insightful, but yes, for this book it's quite a remarkable thought.
Yes, I agree with you. So the idea here is kind of also the same. Easy does it, son, Atticus would say. She's an old lady and she's ill. You just hold your head high and be a gentleman. Whatever she says to you, it's your job not to let her make you mad. Do you think we can have it like an excuse if a person is ill, for him being unhappy about everything all the time and like that?
I was just waiting. Well, I think yes, that it can be an excuse, but again, it all depends on the person. Like if it is someone that I barely know, I do not really care about this person. But if it is someone who is close to me, well, I do not mean only family, but just maybe neighbors, it's also okay. So, of course, it can be an excuse because as we know from the text, she really had a terrible disease and she had pain. And yes, so I think it can be an excuse. Of course, she wasn't happy with her life.
I think, of course, the most important thing is to work on your own, on your reactions to other people, to their words, to their behavior. But still, there is a small part inside of me that keeps telling me that other people should also work on themselves. Of course, that's what I think.
Yeah, but sometimes your condition doesn't allow you to do that, because for example, for me, so my grandmother was ill and she couldn't control herself in some moments. That's why she could be rude or even aggressive some moments. But it's my grandmother, so yeah, it was okay for me because I could understand everything, even when I wasn't that old. So I was well, I wasn't small, but I was like Jim, I think. So maybe a bit older, but I realized everything. So I understood it.
Still, I think that the importance of working on yourself throughout your whole life is very important, because when you don't work on yourself, the older you get, the grumpier you get, and all of that stuff. Then you become unhappy with everything and with everyone, and it kind of like grows on you.
And as for this abstract, I also liked humor in this book, because these were the words that were told by Atticus to Jim, and then Jim said to Scout something like, just hold your head high and be a gentleman.
Yes, I remember this too. The idea that we discussed also was in Atticus's words. There was no point in saying you were sorry if you aren't, said Atticus. Jem, she's old and ill. You can't hold her responsible for what she says and does. Of course, I'd rather she'd have said it to me than to either of you, but we can't always have our ruthers. Indeed, if a person is very ill, if the disease is very bad, it starts to control a person. Unfortunately, it is very sad. That's why, of course, we should be kinder to people who are in such situations, in such conditions. Yes.
It was about Deal, and when he appeared in Jim's and Scout's house, there was an abstract. As Deal explained, I found myself wondering what life would be if Jim were different, even from what he was now. What I would do if Atticus didn't feel the necessity of my presence, help and advice. Why he couldn't get along a day without me. Even Calpurnia couldn't get along unless I was there. They needed me. So I like this moment because it shows that maybe the situation in Deal's family was not so bad, but he just didn't feel that they need him, like his mom and her husband, or who it was his new father.
Yes, his stepfather.
Yeah, so, and it is very sad because when I see children
neglected.
Yes, neglected by their parents, I feel so sorry for them. It's awful.
Recently also one of my friends sent me a video from some kind of a Korean program, and it was showing a small boy. I don't know how old he was, maybe like about 5 or 6 years old, somewhere like that. I'm very bad with saying the age of any people, no matter if they are children or grown-ups. So the boy was playing just with the toys alone in his room, and he was saying that he is always alone. That not his mother, not his father, none of them are playing with him, and he's always alone. And of course, because it's some kind of a show, they were showing also the faces of the viewers, in the studio, and all of them were like almost on the verge of crying. And as I also felt the same, it's very sad that these days, to provide for the good life of a child, people have to work a lot, and it deprives the child of the time with his parents. And I think the time, of course, is the most precious thing. It's some kind of a vicious circle when people start working a lot to provide a good life for their child or children, but they don't have the time to spend with them. So when Alexandra came, and Atticus asked Scout, "How do you like for her to come live with us?" I said I would like it very much, which was a lie. But one must lie under certain circumstances and at all times when one can't do anything about them. What do you think about it?
Well, it's again like the situation demands it. Because I think that she realized that she couldn't do anything about it, and that her father was busy, so she didn't know what exactly he was doing, so like what was going on, she didn't understand it fully, but still she understood that the life has changed somehow. That's why she didn't want to disappoint her father, I think, and that's why she said such things.
I mean, I wanted to know your opinion on this exact idea that one must lie under certain circumstances. I think, again, when you start lying, at some point in your life, you're going to find excuses for your life. Because you don't understand. So if you are saying truth all the time, you get used to saying true things all the time. But when you start saying lie at some point in your life, motivating that this time there were real need for me to tell a lie. For example, not to upset someone or so on and so forth. But again, I think our mind plays tricks on us. And the more you do something, the more excuses our mind find for us to do something that is not very good. That's what I'm
Well, maybe, but
saying.
I do not think that a person can live life without telling any lies. Really, I think it's impossible. I think we do it every day, even in the smallest situations. But yes, so you can't be 100% sincere in the world.
Of course, I understand. What is better, to be a liar but polite, or to say truth but be kind of rude?
Well, I would say to say truth but be rude, but again, I think that it all depends on situations and people.
Because we see many examples of Atticus's speech, I think sometimes you can tell truth without being rude. It all depends on how you formulate your ideas. Yes.
Well, it is natural, again, I love this word, it is natural to say something that you do not fully agree with in certain situations. But you shouldn't betray yourself, and like the first phrase that I read, the first quote of today's episode. So you shouldn't lie in the situations that really are meaningful to you. So because if you lie, you will betray yourself, and it won't lead to anything good. Yeah, so only in that case.
Yes. I also like this. I think it's not the first time Atticus says it. "Don't you worry about anything," he said. "It's not time to worry." He went to the door and out of the room, shutting the door behind him. He nearly slammed it, but caught himself at the last minute and closed it softly. So first of all, I extremely like this idea that don't you worry about anything, it's not time to worry. I think he has already mentioned it once or twice, maybe even, and I think this is kind of like a motto in his life, not to start worrying, and almost nothing in your life is worth worrying about. That's why when you start to be stressed about something, just try to stop yourself from it and think, is it really worth of worrying, of starting worrying? And the second is, of course, we all understand that it was a very emotional moment when Scout cried, and I think Atticus wanted to go and to talk to Aunt Alexandra about the situation, and he was under the influence of this. And even in this situation, he stopped himself from being like aggressive and all of that. And I admire this, that even when you're upset about something, you can stop yourself from being rude. I just remembered also the funny moment when Dill suggested Scout that they should find themselves a baby. What do you think about it? Why did he suggest it?
Well, he was lonely, and I do not really know, but maybe he wanted somebody to take care of him, but he didn't know how to do it, so how to get it. And that's why he thought maybe it was a nice idea to take care of somebody then.
I don't know, for me it was kind of like out of the blue idea when Dill said like, let's get us a baby, and Scout was like, where from? I don't know, also it was a funny situation for me, though I understand that Dill told her about very painful experience for him, and I think when you are going through such difficult emotions in your life, you can't really take care of other people. First of all, you should take care of yourself. But of course I understand that they are children, they don't understand it.
Sometimes I think that in some situations you can even give more to other people because you realize that you were lacking these things in your childhood, for example, and you want to compensate it, and you do a lot of good things to other people and your children. But yes, of course, you should work on yourself and to develop
yes.
somehow.
So shall we move to the vocabulary? Will you start?
Okay, so the first phrase, play hooky. It means to stay away from school or work without permission or explanation. Where are you going at this time of day? She shouted. Playing hooky, I suppose. I'll just call up the principal and tell him.
Okay. My first is going to be a word, and it's cantankerous, which means bad-tempered, argumentative, and uncooperative. Did she die free? Asked Jem. As the mountain air, said Atticus. She was conscious to the last, almost conscious. He smiled. And cantankerous.
The next phrase I have, when the chips are down. It means when a very serious situation arises. Sometimes we have to make the best of things, and the way we conduct ourselves when the chips are down, well, all I can say is when you and Jim are grown, maybe you'll look back on this with some compassion and some feeling that I didn't let you down.
My next phrase is dry spell, which means a prolonged period of dry weather. If someone died during a dry spell, the body was covered with chunks of ice until rain softened the earth.
I have a word, fit, and it's a noun, and here it is used as a sudden attack of illness when someone cannot control their movements and becomes unconscious. No sir, said Jim, but she's so nasty, she has fits or something, she spits a lot.
My next one is put on airs, It means to act in a way that shows one thinks one is better than other people. Now, what if I talked white folks talk at church and with my neighbors? They'd think I was putting on airs to beat Moses.
Run of the mill, ordinary, average, or not special. Your aunt has asked me to try and impress upon you and Jean-Louise that you are not from run of the mill people, that you are the product of several generations, gentle breeding.
Okay, and my last phrase is in for it, which means certain to be punished. When cousin Lily Brooke left, I knew I was in for it.
Dry up, it means to stop talking. He signed and said rape was carnal knowledge of a female by force and without consent. Well, if that's all it is, why did Calpurnia dry me up when I asked her what it was? And the last phrase, according to one's lights, it means according to one's idea of what is right. She tried to bring them up according to her lights, and Cal's lights are pretty good. And another thing, the children love her.
Yes. So we are done with the vocabulary. Anything else to add on this topic or on this part?
Not really.
Guys, thanks for watching this episode. We are going to continue discussing this book next time. Please join us. All the contacts are going to be in the description below. So thanks for watching and live long.
And be responsible for what you say.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye. Summary.
Summary. Why do we need a summary? Yes, of course.
Calpurnia.
Calpurnia.
Сейчас Calpurnia, да?
Да.
Conscious. Да.
Conscience.
Conscience. Is a person's conscious.
Conscience.
Да.
Последнее предложение только.
Well, it's kind of a special
Situation?
Of course, situation. Like, not? What I mean? Сейчас, подожди, я сформулирую, наверное. Может, нет? I found. I'm hard put. Что?
I'm hard put.
Тоже поищу, может, что-то найду в своих закромах.
So, it's kind of like, как сказать, замкнутый круг.
Vicious circle.
And yes.
Нет, я еще хотела что-то сказать. Подожди, я что-то сбилась.
It's absolutely amazing.
Agree.
Agree. Тирада. Agree. Thinks one is better. Что?
Что это? From run of the mill people. Блин, что написано криво, я не могу прочитать.